fear is just feedback. When you look at fear as feedback instead of this thing you're not supposed to have or that you're supposed to be fearless, you take away from the shame.
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode number 258. Today we're talking about how to let your fears make you fierce with Koya Webb. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, now with over 1 million downloads. Here it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Field's Mindful Mama mentor. I help smart, thoughtful parents stay calm so they can have strong, connected relationships with their children. I've been practicing mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of Mindful Parenting, and I'm the author of Raising Good Humans, a mindful guide to breaking the cycle of reactive parenting and raising kind, confident kids. Which, by the way, did you even know it's in audiobook form now? Oh my goodness. Happy New Year! Oh my gosh, it's 2021. I am so happy 2020 is over. And I didn't even realize until like a few weeks ago that Raising Good Humans is an audiobook, which is such great news because obviously this is an audio format. So you guys have been asking me for audiobook format for so long, and the publisher didn't let me know that it was in audiobook. But it is! So you can find it anywhere audiobooks are sold. Raising Good Humans is there. Yay! Great way to start the new year with some new habits and practices and things that will bring you closer to your children and help you become more present as a parent. And it's coming out in hardcover too, which is crazy. So hey, welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you're here. Welcome to a new year. Oh my goodness, are you not so relieved? I think that we can bring some hope into our lives. I got crocuses starting to come up in my garden. I'm just feeling a little more hopeful about everything now. Oh my goodness. So this is going to be a great episode. In just a moment, I am going to be sitting down with Koya Webb, and she's an internationally recognized yoga teacher and celebrity holistic health coach, and she's on a mission to promote self-love and making healthy living a priority in a fun and accessible way. She's the author of Let Your Fears Make You Fierce, How to Turn Common Obstacles into Seeds for Growth, which is great. And she even has a celebrity roster of clients, including India Aire, Stevie Wonder, P. Diddy, Ashley Judd, and more. So I'm so excited for you to dive into this conversation. We're going to talk about how we all experience fears and really how, they can hold us back from living authentically and achieving our full potential. So what do we do with them? What do we do with our fears? So Koya tells us that our fears can be our teachers and make us fierce, and we can turn those obstacles into seeds for growth, which I love. So I want you to listen for a few of my favorite takeaways, how we don't have to be afraid of fear, that fear is feedback, and that to be mentally fit is to let go of limiting beliefs. And we talk a lot about affirmations, how they help break through that not good enough fear. I think that wherever you are in your life, this is going to be a really, really helpful conversation. Make sure you listen all the way to the end because we talk about some fabulous stuff, and I know you are going to get a lot out of it. It's a great way for you to kickstart 2021 with new aspirations and hopefulness. So I hope you like it. So let's dive right into it, shall we? Join me at the table as I talk to Koya Webb. Koya, thank you so much for coming on the Mindful Mama podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. I'm really enjoying your book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. And then as I was reading it and like looking forward to talking to you, and then I was like seeing like, oh my goodness, like you taught yoga to Stevie Wonder, and like my favorite, like my most like inspirational song artist, like India Aire. I have like 5 of her songs on my favorite playlist. I was like, oh my goodness. So I'm so excited to talk to you. And your book is all about overcoming fears. So there's got to be like that story in that of your own fears and what you had to overcome with that. So I'm just wondering if you can kind of take us back to your own story and
what were the sort of and I really love the message of like kind of this like let your fears be your teachers, because I look at like with mindful parenting, I look at like my anger and my temper that came out like as my teacher. It was like my biggest teacher. So
Right.
I really, really appreciate it now. But and yours, I love this as this is your fears. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. And one of the things you said that I want to make sure that I speak to is, I didn't necessarily teach yoga to Stevie Wonder, but as a holistic health and wellness coach, I work on all the pillars of wellness. So mental, spiritual, physical. I help people, especially when I work with celebrities, I help them develop a well-rounded health practice. So
Mm.
that includes nutrition. So I did make a lot of food for Stevie Wonder, which amazing. So made a lot of food and looked at every area of wellness, whether it be like walking or resting or all of the pillars of wellness is what I work with as a health and wellness practitioner. And yoga is one beautiful one that really includes all of them. But most people, when they think yoga poses or,
Mhm.
just stretching. But so a lot of times, even my yoga school, Get Loved Up Yoga School, I call it holistic health and yoga, because when most people think of yoga, they just think of poses. And the reason I bring that out is because kind of getting into let your fears make you fierce, it is a look at the whole self and how can we look at all of us mentally, spiritually, and physically. And I know that's so cliche now. Like people say, like, I want to be mentally, spiritually, and physically fit. Well, what does that even mean? Like, really? Like, what does that mean? And so in the book, I break down to be mentally fit is letting go of limiting beliefs. And I have a whole like part we talk about naming the limiting beliefs and naming the fears, whether it be feeling like you're not strong enough or feeling like you're too old or feeling like you can't do something, and talking about it and changing them into liberating affirmations, and how affirmations affirms who you are. And when you speak something, it actually has a vibrational frequency, and it's not just, oh, these random affirmations. Like, no, you're raising the frequency of yourself and of others by speaking these things to existence. If you look on YouTube, you can go to the water test and you can see how when you write the word love on a glass of water and anger on another glass, you can see the glass. And I don't know if anger was a word, but it was some word in the vibration of fear, like fear, and it got moldy and really like convoluted, whereas a glass that had love on it, it stayed clear. And so we are like water. We are made up of like 70% water. So we have to understand that words, music, the news, all of
Mhm.
those things are affecting our vibrational frequency. So I really go into not too deep into the science, but enough for people to know that this is why affirmations work. This is why meditation works. This is why it's important to get outside in nature. This is what your chakra system is. These are your spiritual energy centers that most people didn't talk about. Like, I grew up in Tennessee. I didn't know anything about a chakra or a spiritual energy center. I didn't know what that was. But once I learned what these things were, I was able to work on my own mental health, especially, and especially for mamas out there. Like, we have a lot of responsibility, and it's just like you have to know how to put yourself first and give yourself grace and take care of yourself. So in that book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce, it's just taking people through a very simple way to start loving yourself, loving others, and loving the world, but in that order, like putting
Mhm.
the self-care first.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Loving yourself, loving each other, and then the world. So what were the fears that you had to overcome?
So for me, it was just like a fear of my full expression. And I'm a very multifaceted, multi-passionate person. And I like doing a lot of things. Like I have songs out there that most people don't know about. Like I've produced my own songs, and I used to run track and field, which, most people know before I actually found yoga from having a track and field injury. I hurt my lower back, and yoga helped me heal, but not just physically, also mentally. And when I say spiritually, I also talk about how we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And a lot of people will say like, I don't know my purpose. But when you go into meditation, you realize that your purpose is always with you. We just got so many distractions to it because we think about, oh, my parents want me to do this, or I'm supposed to do this like someone else. We get all of these caveats, but really when we're born, we have a specific purpose. We, as a baby, it's just to love and be loved. Like that's all of our general purpose. And then if we are able to tune in more on a regular basis with meditation, we can be in alignment with the things that bring us the most joy. And that is purposeful living. It's not about you doing one thing over another. It's about living and doing the things and being around the people that bring you the highest amount of joy, and doing that again and again and again and again.
Oh, absolutely. So you sounds like you had I can relate actually to the lower back injury as well, like with yoga. When I did a yoga teacher training in 2005, and when I went there, I've always had this sort of like a history of that lower back stuff from my father. And then I went there and I drove for 5 hours to this place, and then in the car for 5 hours. And the first class that was offered was an Ashtanga primary series class, which is like, forward fold, forward fold, forward fold, forward fold. And so I hurt, and I was like all full of ego, like, I'm really flexible. I'm in this yoga teacher training. I have to show this teacher like what I can do. And I basically pulled my lower back in like the first day,
Oh,
first hour of a month-long intensive yoga teacher training. And it was like this real instruction of like how to take care of yourself and practice in such a way like that one can do that. And I felt like it really was a very spiritual training too, because it was like this lesson of kind of self healing, et cetera. I'm wondering, like, with your track and field, or your track injury, was, you discovered yoga to sort of heal your lower back as well. Was it, what was your, tell us a little bit more about that story.
absolutely. And my heart goes out to you, because sometimes when you get into those situations where it's like you already had a tender back and then you go into yoga, it's so important when you go into yoga that it's not, you know, trying to prove yourself, which is, it's hard. It's like our human desire to want to show what we can do. But when we go into yoga that way, it actually can have the opposite effect. When technically, when you have an injury and you go into yoga, you're able to breathe, you're able to get the blood flow going, and you're able to really connect with your heart and your breath, which actually promotes healing and recovery. But if you're pushing yourself too hard, which as a teacher and as, the owner of my own yoga studio, and, I always tell the teachers, especially online, now that we're teaching online, I'm certifying teachers online, the biggest thing is do not push yourself further than you can go. And you have to say it so many times as a teacher, because naturally students will want to do what they see, or what they see you do, or what they think they're supposed to do. And a lot of times that's way too far. Like, it's really just about making a connection, leaning into a bit of discomfort, but not pushing yourself as far as you can go. So for me, when I first started yoga, I was a tight athlete. And I was so tight. My hamstrings were so tight from running, from lifting weights. I was so tight. And I had a stress fracture in my fourth lumbar vertebra. So for those back people, it's like the lower back. And I didn't know I was hurt until I had this sharp pain and I dropped to the floor and I thought I'd gotten shot. It was that intense and that sudden. And I wasn't even on the track. I was walking from class when I was in college. And so I was like, whoa, what happened? And so I went to the doctors, and they were like, you have a stress fracture. You're out for the season. I'm like, wait, what? Because I was on full scholarship. And I thought,
Oh,
like,
wow.
other athletes, like, you're going to lose your scholarship. Like, you don't matter anymore. And so I went into a very dark depression, because I felt like, well, if I don't have track, like, what do I have? Like, what am I going to do? And I know a lot of people feel like that, like, if you lose a job or lose a loved one, it's like all of a sudden you don't really plan for it. There's some situations where you can plan, something's transitioning, and there's other situations where something just flatlines you and you're like, what? It comes out of nowhere. And so that's what happened to me. And I was crying in classes, and my teacher was like, you got to go to the counselor, because you're disturbing the class. And I understand that, people knew what happened. And so I went to the counselor, and I was just like, I don't want to be here. Like, what is my life? Because I put so much work into becoming great on the track. And, I wanted to get my education, and I did, which is why I was overworking. I ended up with a 3.8, and, grades were important to me, but I wasn't sleeping. I
Mm.
wasn't taking care of myself, even though I was like, I looked healthy. The fact that I was running myself into the ground so hard, which a lot of moms do,
Mhm.
I ended up hurting myself. And so when I went to my first yoga class, I remember seeing people in these uncomfortable positions. I'm like, ow, this hurts. Like I couldn't even touch my toes. I was like, oh, this is not me. I'm an athlete. I'm not a yogi. And I was so resistant. As some people might look at my page now and they'd be like, you're so flexible. And I was like, trust me, I was not always this way. And it takes time. And I try to always tell people, be patient. Don't try to be where I am tomorrow because this has happened. And even my practice, like I don't push myself to be the hardest, or I don't push myself to be a contortionist or something like that. I lean into my practice and I breathe with my practice and I try to improve every single day. And I try to improve a little bit, a little bit. And I feel like that's how we should be in life. We have to remember we don't have to go from 1 to 100 overnight. And a lot of times, even, when you have a start a family, it's like so much that you don't know. And so many times we thrust ourselves into having to figure it, having to be perfect at it, right? And that sense of perfection, it a lot of times can cause a lot of anxiety and mental health problems, because really we just need to do the best we can and reach out and embrace community and ask questions and allow ourselves to be, seen as we are. And I feel like in yoga, I learned that you don't have to be perfect. The teacher came to me and she said, Koya, I just want you to breathe. Don't try to get in the hard pose. She's like, I don't care if you sit there and just breathe the entire class. That's fine. And that I literally tell my students that today. I'm like, if this practice gets too tough, just breathe. And you don't have to do any poses. You can sit there, you can lie down and breathe. And I think that's the best advice ever for anyone out there who ever tries a yoga class. And I definitely hope you do. My yoga class is online, or any yoga class. Know that if you're breathing, you're doing it right. Know that if you're breathing, it's enough. And from there, you will give yourself grace and you just get better and better over time. And you can really experience the sweet benefits of yoga without kind of experience what you experienced without, it going the opposite way. So yoga, after going in at it for like 6 months, I returned to the track, but I wasn't fully healed. And that's the thing. Sometimes you test and you think, okay, I'm ready. I've been doing this work, but it's like, oh, still felt the pain. So I had to be humble and I had to go back. And so I was out for an entire year. And after that, I was fully healed. But not only, again, my body, I slept longer. I had a balanced schedule. I did my meditation and I continue my stretching more, but honestly, I didn't continue my yoga practice, and I can tell you more about that later. I should have, and I do now, but at that point, I was like, peace out, thanks, yoga, appreciate the healing. And I just was like, thank you. And I went to the track. I ended up winning my first, we are actually winning the conference meet myself in the high jump and the heptathlon, and leading my team, Wichita State, to their first women's championship as the captain.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break.
I am definitely feeling the need for some clean eating and some vitamins and some refreshing at this time of year after the holidays. And if you're looking for that, or if you're looking for a clean prenatal supplement, it can be hard to find one that is both pure and potent. And so this is why I'm so excited about Sakara as a supporter of the podcast. When Sakara's founders became pregnant, at the same time, they struggled to find a prenatal supplement that met their high standards for purity and potency. So they made one, but they made so much more than that. Sakara is a nutrition company that focuses on overall wellness, starting with what you put in your body. Their menu of organic, chef-curated meals create this amazing foundation of nutrition, and they have programs for any stage of your life to restore digestive harmony and regulate cravings. Their meals are like your most food-obsessed, crunchy, high-end friend made you the most nutritious, delicious meal that you could possibly imagine, even with an edible flower arriving at your home. It is so beautiful. Along with their meal, they also have powerful supplements like their prenatal, which is a daily supplement pack containing Algae Omega, Superfood Multi, Super Greens, Probiotic, Choline, and macro minerals designed to support your entire pregnancy journey. They provide all the clean essentials that your body needs, from folate to calcium and many more. And they're plant-based, vegan-friendly, and bioavailable. Sakara has received rave reviews from Vogue, Goop, and the New York Times, and more. And so you can support your health with Sakara's meal delivery and prenatal vitamins and get the nutrients you and your baby need. And right now, Sakara is offering our listeners 20% off their first order of the prenatal when they go to sakara.com/hunter or enter the code HUNTER at the checkout. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com/hunter to get 20% off your first order.
I feel like so many times that we are afraid of being uncomfortable. And it's such a gray area, right? Because it's like, well, how uncomfortable is too much uncomfortableness? And I feel like we have to trust ourselves. And as women, we're naturally intuitive. So you really have to trust, like, okay, this feels like a stretch, and this feels like a little uncomfortable, and then like, ow, that hurts. So that's the difference. And I feel like when we have challenges in life, there's like, okay, this is uncomfortable. And there's a like, I feel like I'm in rage, or I feel super like this is a clear no. And I feel like if we kind of lean into that, and our practice teaches us to lean into that. So if we're able to do it on our mats, and that's why I think yoga is so good, it's like, okay, you want to go deeper in life. Try something in your yoga practice that you find hard, that you shy away from. And for me, it's inversions, because I have a lean upper body and I have kind of body heavy, thick legs and everything. And always felt like it was so much harder for me to get it, because I'm like, how are these little arms going to hold up all this body? And I'd always fall over, and I practice and practice. It was so hard for me. So, it's like, maybe it's just not for me, but really it's just going to take longer. And I'm also tall. So when you're taller, it takes you a little bit longer. There's longer levers. So it takes you a little bit longer to get things, even in yoga. Cause like, I remember I would see people, and my teachers didn't know how to teach me because I was taller, and you have to round the back to get your foot between the hands, and you have to have a certain amount of flexibility to get there. So I would see other people maybe starting the class as beginners too, they get there a lot quicker. And I'm like, something's just wrong with my legs, or because I have long legs, I'll never be able to do that. And so sometimes, because we start with a different deck of cards, or we start with less than someone else, we might think it's not possible. But so many things are possible, but it takes looking at things in a different way, and maybe you take a different route. So for me on the mat, what that looked like was I had to gain more flexibility, more strength. I had to articulate my body in a certain way. And now I can smoothly step into the front of the mat without taking my hand and placing my foot there, which is how I started. And in life, that looks like, at first it was really hard for me to, gain respect in the wellness community, especially as a woman of color. But it was like, hey, I've been doing yoga for this long. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at. And I really had to stand up for myself. And it was very uncomfortable, because I felt like, hey, I'm not getting the same opportunities, and I'm not getting the same like recognition, and I'm doing a lot of work, and I love it. And I don't need the recognition necessarily to be happy with my life. But I feel like that I'm being overlooked, and I need to speak up for myself. And I feel like when you're used to doing things that are a bit uncomfortable, because usually you don't want to ruffle any feathers. Oh, I'm cool. I'm fine. It's okay. No, even in relationships, if you feel like, hey, my partner is not appreciating me, all this work that I do at home and with these kids, and so many times it's like we have like 5 different jobs as women at home, like, cooking, cleaning, and picking things up and taking care of the kids. And I love these videos where the male switches roles with the mama, and they have to do that. And they're like, okay, I can go to the job and sit in the office and do the thing. And you switch roles, and actually the partner, and then this can be in any type of relationship where the partners switch roles, and you get to see the role, how hard it is to do the role of another person. And I think that's really important, because you really don't understand how hard it is until you flip the perspective and you realize, like, okay, this is hard for me and this is different, but I can do it, but it's going to take some practice. It's going to take some work, and I shouldn't have to force myself to be perfect at it right off the bat. And I feel like yoga brings you that awareness of like, you don't have to be perfect at anything right off the bat, and it's going to take time to build up just not just success, but it's going to be take time to build up just really knowing how to do things where it works well for everyone involved, especially when it comes to relationships. You know, when you get in there, you want to be perfect in a relationship, but you literally got to get to know a whole nother person. And in parenting, it's like you want to be perfect at it. It's like you got to get to know a whole nother human and still take care of yourself. And in jobs, it's like, okay, you got to get to know this whole community, the community, how people work, how people think. So it's like if we give ourselves more grace, I think we can give others more grace. And if we give others more grace, then together we're able to come to a place of understanding where no one has to be perfect, but we're not afraid to like communicate. We're not afraid to kind of lean into the uncomfortableness, but not bite up more than we can chew. And I feel like that creates more harmony in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of the things there's so much there. You said a lot of things that I really can relate to and appreciate. I want to kind of talk about this idea of fears, right? Because a lot of people have fears. A lot of women especially feel even bad for having fears. Like we look at something like even like the word anxiety, and people feel bad for having it. We want to kind of stuff it away. We don't know how to deal with it. And so I guess in some ways, like I'm kind of asking, like there are kind of like general anxieties, but then there are sort of like bigger fears. And you kind of identify ways to identify and overcome fears in the book. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are some of the common fears maybe that we have, that people have, that sometimes if we name them out loud, like here on the podcast, people will be like, oh yeah, that's me. And some of the, what is that process for overcoming fears that you've developed?
I love that question. And I would say the number one thing that I feel like has helped people the most when identifying fears is realizing that fear is just feedback. When you look at fear as feedback instead of this thing you're not supposed to have, or that you're supposed to be fearless, you take away from the shame. You take away the shame and guilt from me. Like, oh, okay, I'm having a little fear here. This is feedback. Where do I need to understand my position more? Where do I need to understand the world more? Where do I need to understand another person more, because this fear is coming up for me. So when you look at fear as feedback, that's literally the first step to acknowledge it. And if you're looking at it as like a bad thing that you shouldn't have, you're not going to acknowledge it. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have any fear. I'm good. It's like, no, actually, I am having a little like uncomfortability. Like, because fear starts with uncomfortability, like, oh, it's uncomfortable. So the body gets uncomfortable when it's scared, like, oh, I might go too far. I might get stretched too much, or if we are going to touch a hot stove, you feel it warm first, and it's like, oh, the body might tense up because like, oh, that's getting more than I can take. So fear is a good thing. It's a protective mechanism. But what happens when we talked about things like anxiety, it's compounded fear that has not been addressed over time. And so it's like, I'm scared of this, but I'm just maybe accepting it and I'm not doing anything about it. So I keep getting these signs, and actually my fear is increasing. The feedback is increasing. So hopefully, eventually, I do something about it. So it's our body being our best friend. Fear is our best friend. Fear is feedback. And so when you look at fear as a best friend, when you look at fear as feedback, you develop a healthy relationship with the fear. And then you're able to look at that feedback and say, okay, well, I have a fear of going out on my own and starting my own business. That's a big one. Like I'm scared, like, because, what if I fail? Well, what if you fly? And it's like, if you're able to say, okay, fear is feedback. And then in the book, I break down, when you have the fear, you ask yourself, what do you need? Do you need more support? Do you need more resources? Do you need more education? Do you need more time? Once you acknowledge the fear, then you can go through the steps of saying, okay, what do I need to do so I would have less fear? A lot of times just having someone with you, like, oh, I feel so supported. Now I feel like I could do this, or I have an accountability partner. Now I'm not alone. So, maybe we can even have fear together. And so it's really just like acknowledging it first, and then finding out what you need. And again, in the book, I just give specific steps to help a person figure out, okay, this is what I need. That is what I need. And there's no like right or wrong. It's like when you look at it, you'll figure out, okay, I really just don't want to do this by myself. Like, or I really just I need more capital, more money to get this off the ground. Maybe I'll do like a fundraiser, or maybe I'll go for funding, and you can decide what path you want to take, but it starts with acknowledging the fear, looking at the fear as feedback and addressing it, not letting it pile up, and not letting fear stop you. Because fear, I have an acronym in the book, false evidence appearing real. And it's like when you look at it, it's just like, this is not even real. The realness is like, with the right support, so many things can be done. Like any of the inventions we look at, the light bulb, the airplane, all of those, there was a lot of fear surrounding, oh, this is not possible, this is not going to work. But it took someone saying, you know what? That's just fear. And I'm going to prove that it's possible. There might be a lot of inventions that didn't happen, but it takes those people that push beyond the fear and try it anyway. They follow the feeling, they follow their intuition, their instincts, and they're like, you know what? It is possible. And I think when you look at fear in that way and you break it down to like, okay, what do I need? Okay, this is what I'm wanting. For some reason, I'm wanting this. And this is the fear that I have around it. What do I need that can address that fear or to address that feedback?
And I think that's great because, the fear is like our bodies, like in some ways, like it's very related to our bodies, like threat response, right? Like we're going outside our comfort zone, and our nervous system wants to be safe and keep us alive. And the idea that it's looking at it as feedback is to say, okay, then yeah, like I need something to get from A to B. That's a really brilliant way of looking at it. So what about like a lot of people have that fear of like, there's something wrong with me, I'm not enough, kind of these sort of old beliefs that can really, harry people for over years and years and years of their life and hold them back. What do you recommend people do with thoughts and beliefs of like not enoughness?
That is the biggest one in my life. I feel like no matter how many books I've written, no matter how many podcasts I've done, I still don't feel like it's enough, and that stems from a deep not feeling seen, not feeling heard, comes from like the abuse that someone can have or might be experiencing in the world. And what is best for that is affirming, I am enough. My life is valid, my experiences are valid, my work is valid. And you have to affirm because it's just not real. The truth is you are enough. But if your experience keep eliciting these feelings, you can't deny, you have to acknowledge, like, you just can't say like, okay, everything's okay. You have to say like, I feel like I'm not enough because even though I'm doing these things, I'm not getting recognition. So you really have to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Like, I feel like I'm not enough because even though I'm doing all these tasks at home as a mom, I still don't feel appreciated.
Yeah, you can't skip over the uncomfortable piece of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is so huge in so many ways. We talk about it a lot in mindful parenting too. And you talk about affirmations, like you have to affirm that you are enough. And I love this. But I grew up like, when SNL had like Stuart Smiley on, it was like, totally making fun of like, gosh darn it, I am good at, all that stuff. And so I was kind of like, oh, one of the cool kids, like that's lame or whatever as a young person. But now I've come around full circle and I use those affirmations. And now I personally see like that it's really, really not just really valuable, but it just makes a lot of sense because of the natural innate human negativity bias. That it actually just, because we're wired for survival, it just, our brains tend to see things in a negative way. So it just takes a little more effort, a little more conscious, deliberate practice to put these positive things in our brains. So is that how you see affirmations? I mean, what do you use? I mean, you talk about using them a couple times a day in the book, which I think is so cool. So tell me about that.
Yes, I make affirmations every new moon and every full moon. Like if you look at my Instagram, I like have like a list of affirmations that I just channel, right? I call them divine downloads. They just come to me, and I just ask for guidance in this season of my life. And then I just start writing down like whatever comes through and whatever I'm inspired to write. And it's such a beautiful practice because that season it might be like, I might be going through something personally, I might be going through something work related, it might be a mix of the two, but it's really almost affirming where I might have fears in my life, or it might be affirming of, the stuff that we need to work on based on like, the new moon in Sagittarius. Like it's based on like adventure, and it's like, where am I kind of afraid of adventure? So I kind of know the questions and I know the seasons that we're in based on the moon cycle. So I bring that into it. I know the personal things that I'm experiencing in my life. So based on all those things, those are all the things that are top of mind and that I write down and go through my own book. Like my book is my tool I wrote for everyone and myself. And I go through and I kind of ask myself a question. I kind of bring up all the fears so that when I'm asking for these downloads, this clarity of affirmation, the affirmations come through to address any type of fear or issue or like problem that I'm facing at the time. So I do it and I write it down. I'll post on my Instagram. Sometimes like in my planner, I love planners. We have a Get Loved Up planner. And I just like, I have, journaling pages in there, the new one for 2021. And I write down at the top of each month, I'll write down the affirmation that I feel is most empowering. So every time I open my journal, every single day, I see it. And it's a constant reminder. So in the journal, some people like lipstick on the mirror. Some people like sticky notes, like whatever you like. It's like putting sticky notes in your book. Just whatever you're going to see every day. I do think it's important to have a daily practice of rituals of affirmation, whether it's one affirmation or a series of affirmation. I think looking at it daily is very important.
What else is in your daily practice?
Oh goodness. I got laughed at in my book because I actually list out my entire
It's long. I have to say, I was like, wow.
But people don't understand it's like so important. It's not about being perfect. Like a lot of times people don't like to write down like what would be your ideal schedule. So I take a lot of clients and all my community and students. I'm like, I want you to write down your ideal day. And that's what I did. Now, how many times a year does this ideal day happen? Probably zero. But the fact that it is there, it gives you something to pull from. And because we're just kind of starting off with a clear slate and we like the day, bring us what it brings us, instead of us taking charge of our day and saying, I would like to experience when I wake up in the morning, I write in my journal and I look at the sunset, and then I say my affirmations, and then I have some tea, and then I do my practice. And so I kind of have my ideal day. But does it happen every day? No. Like this morning I went to get a package. I had a deep conversation with my boyfriend, and I didn't get my practice in today. Yeah, maybe I'll do it later on, but I didn't. And I didn't get my tea, but I ate a donut for breakfast. And usually I don't even eat this early, So it's like, it's okay. It's like, but my schedule is still there. Maybe tomorrow I have meditation and water to start, and then a green juice, which is my ideal, right? And so I really challenge people to write down the idea. Like, when you feel your best every day, people know what it is. They know, wake up, drink water, have the affirmation time, have whatever it is. It's different. Some people like to wake up and dance, like whatever it is. I encourage people to write it down. Don't beat themselves up when they don't do it, but maybe notice how they feel when they do it like 3 days in a row. Like you do the rituals. So some of the rituals, to answer your question, I love journaling. I love meditation, yoga, breath work, and I like at least walking a mile a day. And sometimes I walk it, sometimes I walk and jog it. But that is my ideal consistent morning. And then when I have time, usually I grab water and a green juice before noon. I try to keep liquids in the morning, and that makes me feel my best. But like I said, today I had 2 donuts. It was really great. I got this package. It was in there. I ate it. It was great. It's like, and sometimes it's so important to kind of, realize you don't have to be perfect, and you can have those donuts for breakfast, and like, you're still going to be healthy. You're still going to look good. Your skin is still going to glow. Now, if you eat donuts for breakfast every single day, now we have a problem. So it's like about setting up your schedule that is ideal, but don't beat yourself up if, you're not perfect at it, or you just kind of want to have an unguilty pleasure and do something different sometimes. And that's how you keep yourself healthy, when it's like there, the structure is there, but you give yourself grace around it.
Stay tuned for more Mindful Mama podcast right after this break.
You may or may not know that we heat our house with a wood stove in the winter, and I love it. It's so cozy and wonderful. But I have one problem, which is that I wake up in the morning and I have dryness due to congestion and irritation due to congestion and that dryness, and it's not so great. So the last 7 mornings, I have been using Zicam Nasal All Clear before my meditation, and it has like bumped it up a notch in breathing. It feels so good. You can use Zicam Nasal All Clear, which keeps your nose clean, clear, and healthy as part of your daily routine. It feels amazing, I have to say. Only Zicam Nasal All Clear nasal swabs instantly deliver the triple action benefit of protecting, cleansing, and soothing your nasal passage. Zicam Nasal All Clear is different because it is easy to use, convenient for on the go. I've never seen anything like it. It really is so convenient and easy. It is like you pop that baby open and you swish it around both nostrils, and then it's like a whole new world has opened up to you. I cannot recommend Zicam Nasal All Clear anymore. If you have dryness due to congestion or that crusty feeling in the morning, it feels amazing, and you can just swab it out. It feels great. You can find Zicam Nasal All Clear. It's available on Amazon. Search for Zicam Nasal All Clear. That's ALLCLEAR. Your nose will thank you.
I love that. And for the record, everybody, Koya's skin really does glow. So, and she had a donut. But you talk also, you talk
Two donuts.
2 donuts. I mean, I love that. I mean, one of like my greatest spiritual teacher, I would say in my life has been the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. And in that community, when you go on retreats there, they have a lazy day every week. All year long, they have a lazy day where they're like, sorry, we don't have anything scheduled. Do whatever you want, meditate if you want, it's like, which I think is really healthy. I think that's such like a healthy attitude. But you talk about discipline in the book. And I think that this can be really hard, like this balance between discipline and openness, like, because some of the work I do sometimes is helping people to develop a practice. And, I guess maybe one of the places I've come around to is like, well, I guess as you're developing something, you do have to have maybe more discipline. And as it becomes more established, more of like a firmly, this is part of who I am and what I do, then you can have a little more openness about it. What do you say to that?
I feel like structure is important. And I feel like more times than not, you have to do what's healthy for you. And you have to do what's best for you if you're interested in optimal health and vitality, which of course I am all about. I've been plant-based vegan for 15 years. I live a very healthy life. I take vitamins, I take herbs, I take supplements that whatever I'm missing in my diet, I get my blood work done. Like I am on it. And I'm a foodie. People say, you can't say you're a foodie and be a vegan. I was like, yes, you can. Because I'll eat anything as long as it's vegan. I'll try it, and hopefully it's good. But I know I function best when I eat like a specific way. And I mostly eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds versus processed food. But I'll have a donut, I'll have pizza, I'll have hot dogs, like I'll have all these things. But I do notice, like, especially when I'm traveling, I love to check out all the vegan things, all the vegan restaurants, and wherever I'm going, I want to taste all the food because, again, I am a foodie. I'm going to claim it because I want it, And so I feel like you have to, for me, everyone's not like that. Some people eat to live, and it's like, I'm just eating whatever I need to eat to function my highest. And I do that most of the time, but then I have this other side of me that this is like ravaging foodie that I want it, but I don't have to like eat to oblivion. When I was younger, I would have these eating contests. Like I was one of those people that would be like, eat like 50. I would go to this restaurant called Ryan's and I would eat like a boatload of food, like 4 plates of food. Then I have a salad and it create more space in my stomach. And I eat like more, like it didn't make any sense. It was just a silly thing. Me and my brother. So I'm not like that. Like I don't like stuff myself, but I like to taste food. I like to share food. I like the experience of food. I'm a very passionate person. And so I feel like if you're not like that, you're not like that. And that's fine. But if you are like that, for a while, I actually deprived myself from that emotion until I realized that, no, I really love experience of different types of food. Although I've done fast, like I've done, my favorite is like the master cleanse, which is the only thing that I do that doesn't involve textured food in your mouth. Like green juices, not great on. Like I've tried all these other things and I get cranky, but the master cleanse, which is some people call the lemonade diet, I was able to somehow that balance it created a balance in my blood sugar and I was able to do it. But mostly I think food is good and people should eat food that is good for them most of the time. And when you are eating food that's processed, that's not good, not as good for you, not as healthy for you, it should be in moderation. You should have those free days to where I don't think, I refrain from calling it like, what is it? Cheat days, right? Because that puts a negative connotation in your mind because you feel like you're cheating. No. And so I call them unguilty pleasures. So it's like, don't be guilty about it. Enjoy your food. Because what will happen, especially what was happening with some of my clients who were doing that, is like they would eat healthy during the week and then on the weekend, they would have cheat days. Oh, I do whatever I want on the weekend. Well, you can negate any positive results you had during the week with a super bingey, easy 2 days of going out and eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's say you have pancakes and like all the fixing and all the chocolate and all the salt. You got to eat for lunch with your friend. You start drinking, at lunch, you're drinking at dinner, having all the things. In
This
2
is like
days,
making me ill thinking about it.
but so many people do it. So I have to say, like, and it's the biggest thing that I, as a coach, and as a holistic health coach, I actually have to retrain people's mind to realize that that is actually not the move. Like, you can still enjoy yourself, but do it one meal or do it like 2 meals, or like maybe if you eat, don't eat all the things, maybe share some meals, So I really do have to speak to that because it is a thing. Allowing yourself to have, okay, today I had 2 donuts. That's more than one. That's a lot. I've had times where, look, I'm not perfect. I've had times where I have 5 or 6. My students brought me this big birthday cake made out of donuts because I really love donuts. And I ate like 6 or 7 at once before a photo shoot. Like, I was like, okay, Koya, you've gone too far now. So there's a balance. And I think we all know when we're like exceeding that balance. But even then, it's like, don't beat yourself up. Notice that you had a pimple the next day. Notice that you didn't feel your stomach didn't. Just notice these things. Give yourself grace and say, hey, I'm not going to do that next time. Next time I'll stop with 2 or 3 or maybe just 1. So I think it's about just being honest with ourselves, but also giving ourselves grace at the same time to have these experiences in life, which is what we're here to do as humans. And then notice like, okay, that didn't feel so great. Maybe I'm going to be a little bit more mindful next time.
Yeah, do you feel like yoga has made you be more aware of your body? Because I used to like binge on like sweets and sugary things when I was in college. If I was just like feeling badly, I would like make a whole bunch of cookies or whatever, and I would run the next day for a little while or whatever. But I never had like a conscious place where I was like, oh, I'm stopping that. But there's somehow between, grad school and now, somewhere in the middle there, and yoga was a big part of my life, has been a big part of my life in the middle there, and meditation, it just like I'm aware of like it doesn't feel good. And like now I have zero problem with that. And yeah, I eat cheese balls on occasion. I have no guilt about it. I love those Hers cheese puffs. They're the best.
Yeah, it's giving yourself grace. I feel like it goes back to that, and I feel like, the chapter of my book is specifically called "There's Freedom in Discipline."
Yeah.
So freedom you get is when you're mostly doing the things that are good for you. It gives you more freedom to do those things that are just like, again, maybe not as healthy, but those unguilty pleasures. But when you're doing that all the time, you're like, hey, I can do whatever I want. I'm grown. I'm not, I can eat whatever I want. Then you actually don't have freedom because you are going to be having to take pills and be in the hospital, and you're going to unfortunate repercussions, or like me, laid up for a year, not being able to do something that I really love because I wasn't mindful. And to your point, yes, yoga it allows you to slow down. It allows you to listen to your body more, connect with your spiritual intuition more, which does guide you through making the best choices for yourself. So when you're not as connected to that, you're like just doing what everyone else doing, what everyone else doing, I could do it. I'm doing it less than that person. You actually start comparing yourself and your journey with other people when really you shouldn't. It should be based on what's best for you, because we have different constitutions. We come from different places. Everyone has a different way they process whatever it is they're experiencing. So it's more important for you to tune in to what you're experiencing and make the best choices for yourself. And yoga definitely helps you slow down and become more mindful, simply because you're more in alignment with what's happening in your body. You're noticing a little bit more than just running around doing whatever and like making no connection to that internal guidance.
Okay, so I I p- I'll talk about this because, or I'll ask you about this because you mentioned the chakras, and I guess this is like a little bit of a confession for me as a as like you know, a yoga teacher, and that I've always been kind of like, I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know, what's the science behind, like, what is this thing, like, I've never really dived into it because I have like a good amount of skepticism about that, I suppose I would say. So maybe if you could give me like what do you say to that person who is like, what the heck is this all about?
I love chakra skeptics. I just love it because I was definitely a skeptic when I started too. And it's like the thing that I kind of start out with is like, you know, when you have a gut feeling and you feel like in your gut, you're like, oh, why am I having, I know I want to say something. It's like, that's all around not standing in your power. Like in the solar plexus, you know, right above your navel, that's all it has to do with standing in your power. And then sometimes and more sensitive people feel this more. And I'm a very sensitive person, which is why I can help people so deeply, because I can feel things within myself and others. So I would not speak my truth, not say something that needs to be said. And then I would go hoarse. You've heard this from singers. So like, I'm like, I can't even talk. Like you start to lose your voice. You feel that lump in your throat. That is something. So when most people have felt the lump in the throat, most people have felt the gut feelings. So usually I kind of talk about those two things. Or sometimes when you go through heartbreak, sometimes you actually feel physical pain in your heart, like or cramping in your heart. And so I usually go there to let people understand that our emotions affect our body physically.
Mm.
Some people can be in yoga, you know, they won't know this if they're not in yoga, but in yoga and they're doing hip openers or pigeon pose and stuff like that. And they're like, oh my goodness, I just start crying and I didn't know why. Right. So when you can lead people to that gut feeling and that lump in the throat, something that most people have experienced, I used to talk to people from that space and then talk about how we are energetic beings. We are energy. That's why scientifically, when the sun comes out, we feel, and in the summertime, things are heightened. People are aggressive, more antsy. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. Like kids are calmer in the winter. We are calmer people in the winter. There's a lot less death. There's a lot less murder. It's the scientifically, the science. And now we have science. If you read Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, he really breaks down, and he has now started the scientific study behind our spiritual energy centers, our chakras, the benefits of meditation. So now, because you don't know until you hook people up to like machines and actually study the emotions and how they change. I mean, you have to go with what people are saying, right? So I take people back to their feelings, and that usually helps people say, all right, let me try this. And then once people start trying, like that I have a whole chapter dedicated to the chakras and understanding when they're underactive, overactive, or balanced. So when your chakra, let's say your root chakra, it's all around feeling safe and secure. So if you're moving or if you don't feel stable in your home, it can actually affect your work. It can affect your relationship. And people are like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't feel safe. So it's like I was getting in arguments with my partner. Nothing seemed to be going right. Well, your core base chakra of feeling safe and supported was shook. That's why you were having all these problems. And then you move up to the sacral chakra, which is just below your navel, and that's all around expression. And sometimes when we're young, especially us women, we want to do these dances, but we're told, "Ooh, you're being too sexual. Oh, you're like a stripper." You know, we're like, oh, I can't do that, or I can't dress that way, or something's going to happen to me, or we've been even experienced assault, which I share in my book, and that actually closes down our ability to express ourselves, and so working with that, and when people have had different traumas or different relationships, and the relationships with different chakras, and they work with it, they notice like, oh my goodness, I feel like I could dance. So it's really experiential. So the first thing is, number one, getting people to try it. And number two, experiences speak for themselves. Don't believe me, just try it. And so usually that gets people to try it. And then when they experience it, they're like, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, this really works. I'm not a skeptic anymore. So I would tell you to just like dive in and just do the work and try some of the things. And you're going to notice like it's too many people. At first, even when I learned about it myself and I did it for myself, I was like, oh, no one's going to believe me though. Like, cause I work with mainstream a lot. And, I work with my family. I remember my sister, it took 6 years for her to even start meditating. I'm like, telling her, this is going to help you. This is going to be great. And I tell her, oh yeah, no one's doing that. And then finally, after 5 years, she's like, Koya, I started meditating. It's so good. And now she's so deep into it. And, at first it was tough. So I would say to anyone listening there, if you're remotely interested or remotely going through things, just work with it, trust it, and see what happens. But I've had very few people who've really committed fully to like, you know what? All right, fine. This is silly. I'm a skeptic, but let me just fully dive in for like a month and see what happens.
Okay. So just to be clear, like I would want to like say, identify which chakra I had a imbalance in, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then I would want to do some specific, that's what you mean by dive in. I would want to do some specific practices to balance that energy. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so in my book, I have a quiz. So it's like I have a series of questions and you answer yes or no to them. And then based on that, you can see which chakra that you need to work on, where you're either overactive or underactive. And some people will go through, they're like, I'm like not balancing all my chakras, or I'm not balancing like 3 of them. Is that bad? And it's like, it's neither bad nor good. It's just information. And based on that information, if you follow the prompts, because I give prompts, whether it's overactive or underactive, I give prompts. If you follow them, you'll notice things change, and you cannot fight results. Like you cannot deny results. And so the results speak for themselves. That's how it is in wellness. It's like you're going to this gym. They're like, oh, if you do A, B, and C, you're going to lose weight. And it's like, it's one thing if you go and you're not losing weight. But if you go and you don't believe it, like what exercise, this exercise make no sense. But if the weight comes off, and you're like, all right, well, it is what it is. Because people do the silliest fad diets. But they stick with it because it brings results. And then when we go into stuff like that, that's a whole nother conversation. But it's like, but is that sustainable? Right? And so working with your chakra is sustainable because it doesn't really cost you a thing. And it's something that's within your power. It's within your wheelhouse. And when most people do it, they experience results.
All right, I'll take you up on your challenge. Obviously, I have not done the quiz yet, but see, there's my post-it note. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the quiz.
We're converting you to chakra lover.
Maybe we're still on the fence here.
And I have like this chakra smoothie challenge, like 7 days, and I have like a smoothie for each chakra because it goes into what you wear and what you eat and how it all matters. And you even look at the marketing. These restaurants know it. Why do you think every building like looks like McDonald's? It's like red and yellow. Oh, what do those colors do? Well, they have something to do with your emotion, and they make you feel hungry. Then blue makes you feel less hungry. So interior designers say, okay, yeah, if you have a problem with emotional eating, then make your kitchen blue. Like all of these things scientifically make sense, but they're not really circled back to our everyday living. But it's already out there that vibrations, music, colors, like all of these things affect us in a physical way.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I know we're wrapping up here, but I just have to say that I was like so thrilled to see that like you have like a motivational playlist too, because that's like one of my favorite things is I have this like inspired and confident playlist because I know that like word lyrics get stuck in my head. Like that's just the way my brain is. I went on a silent retreat and it was like I was like a nonstop radio. And so I want to get word lyrics that are like gonna inspire me and like lift me up and make me feel good. And so I was like, oh yeah, like I have that song. It was really fun to look at your list.
And that's awesome. And that just shows like music raises your vibration. So that is that is a good, like, so it's like you already are experiencing the power of being able to shift your energy through vibrations. You're just using the vibration modem of
Yeah.
music.
That's awesome. We'll have to like trade playlists.
Yeah.
Well, Koya, it has been so fun to talk to you, and I really enjoy your book and your work, and I really appreciate what you're bringing into the world. Where can people find more about you and what you're doing?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a treat to just hang out with you and chat with you. And people can find me at koyawebb.com, KoyaWebb. And on Instagram, Koya Webb. My community is Get Loved Up. Love yourself, love others, love the world. And Get Loved Up has its own Instagram and also website, getlovedup.com. And my book is, as you've mentioned, thank you for mentioning, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce, How to Turn Common Obstacles into Seeds for Growth.
Amen. I love that. That's like so up my alley. I love that. Let's make them our teachers. So thank you so much, Koya, and thank you for doing what you're doing and for confessing to your donuts and to sharing all your wisdom today. It's been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love what Koya had to say about our fears. Let them be our teachers. Yes, yes, yes. We're all going to have them. It's just part of our wiring. And we don't have to let them hold us back. No way, Jose. So if this is a year you want to make some shifts and changes, you can absolutely do that. I mean, that's really the only thing that we can count on that is inevitable, is that we will be changing. So how will we be changing? And can we get ourselves comfortable with that discomfort that comes with change? We can, and it can bring us outside that comfort zone in a really beautiful way and make it feel that life is really generous with us in an incredible way. If you have gotten something out of this podcast, of course, I want your support. My team wants your support. We would love it if you subscribe and leave a rating, of course, on Apple Podcasts. And if you could take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at mindfulmamamentor.com. Let me know where you're listening, when you're listening, what you're getting out of it. I hope that you're doing that and I can see it and I can say, yay! And I love doing that. It's really a joy and connecting with you. And I hope to talk to you real soon. We have some amazing guests lined up for this year and some amazing teachings and trainings, and I cannot wait to connect with you more on the Mindful Mama podcast. I am so grateful for your ears, grateful for you to listen. If you want to support the podcast, subscribing, leaving a rating is a great way. Supporting the sponsors is a great way. I seriously love those Zicam swabs, and so nice. Do those things, and that helps support the team to keep it all going and keep it coming to you for free in your ears. So thank you for your time. I'm so glad to be connecting with you, and I cannot wait to connect more. Wishing you a beautiful week, my friend. Namaste.
I'd say definitely do it. It's really helpful. It will change your relationship with your kids for the better. It will help you communicate better. And just, I'd say communicate better as a person, as a wife, as a spouse. It's been really a positive influence in our lives. So definitely do it.
I'd say definitely do it. It's so worth it. The money really is inconsequential when you get so much benefit from being a better parent to your children and feeling like you're connecting more with them and not feeling like you're yelling all the time or you're like, why isn't things working? I would say definitely do it. It's so worth it. It'll change you.
No matter what age someone's child is, it's a great opportunity for personal growth and it's a great investment in someone's family. I'm very thankful I had this.
You can continue in your old habits that aren't working, or you can learn some new tools and gain some perspective to shift everything in your parenting.
Are you frustrated by parenting? Do you listen to the experts and try all the tips and strategies, but you're just not seeing the results that you want? Or are you lost as to where to start? Does it all seem so overwhelming with too much to learn? Are you yearning for a community of people who get it, who also don't want to threaten and punish to create cooperation? Hi, I'm Hunter Clark Fields, and if you answered yes to any of these questions, I want you to seriously consider the Mindful Parenting membership. You'll be joining hundreds of members who have discovered the path of mindful parenting and now have confidence and clarity in their parenting. This isn't just another parenting class. This is an opportunity to really discover your unique, lasting relationship, not only with your children, but with yourself. It will translate into lasting, connected relationships, not only with your children, but your partner too. Let me change your life. Go to mindfulparentingcourse.com to add your name to the waitlist, so you will be the first to be notified when I open the membership for enrollment. I look forward to seeing you on the inside. mindfulparentingcourse.com.